Hello everyone. This is gonna be a different kind of video than we normally do. Having a rough time right now. Like, I'm okay, I'm good, but just like my brain has not been braining. So I thought it might be nice to kind of talk about it while having like a little campfire. Something about fire, hold on. Move my wicker chair, it's gonna catch on fire. I do have a bucket of water right beside me, so if anything goes wrong, we do have water. There she goes. It looks so silly, but I just don't want it to catch on fire. So today is there's a couple more hours until my child's birthday, and I have never done a video about my journey having my child. So I'm having this fire here because it's like it gives me something to like ground and look at while I'm talking about this stuff. Plus it's just like, you know, I need to do some ritual moments. Not right now, but like at some point. So it just felt like a good night for a little fire. So I wanted to have a natural birth my whole life. I was born in a birthing facility and not a hospital, and I always wanted that for myself. Like I always wanted to be able to have a natural childbirth. Well, after years of trying and not being able to get pregnant, I did get pregnant and had a miscarriage. And this is after years. I think we tried for the first time when we were 19. And then I got pregnant at 24. So, you know, I was very worried that I wouldn't be able to get pregnant. And then once I got pregnant and had my miscarriage, there was like sadness, but also like excitement that I could get pregnant. They do believe that I have endometriosis. I've had more than one gynecologist tell me that. And I just like, it's one of the diagnoses that is so far down on the priority list. Like, there's nothing I can do. I've already done all the treatments that you would do for it. For like hormone stuff, I tried all different, I've done everything. But I was optimistic. So, of course, that very next month, that very next cycle, I did in fact get pregnant. And like the excitement was just like, it was wild. So if you can do time, then, well, I guess in age too, my child will be 4. So that means they're a COVID baby. And for those that don't know the impact that COVID had on birthing, it was something that I never would have expected. You know, I was planning out my ideal childbirth when I was a teenager. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that something like that would happen while I'm trying to, you know, have a child. So there are a lot stricter rules than I originally anticipated, even through COVID, hoping that it would get better, and it did not. So I had to change my entire birth plan to You know, okay, I can only have one person in the room with me. I cannot have anyone else. And I was informed that that person was not allowed to switch out. So if you look at a lot of people's birth videos or vlogs or however during COVID, all of them are different. It's area by area, and it may even be hospital by hospital, but at that point in it, at my hospital, we were only allowed to have one guest, like one person there with you. They could come and go, but they couldn't switch out, which is rough. But for me, it was especially rough. I was late having my child. When I went to the hospital for my induction, I was over a week late. Now, I don't think having a child a little bit later is a big problem. The problem for me was that previous to being pregnant, oh my God, I'm like dropping these. Previous to being pregnant, I was about 100 pounds. I would go up a little bit, down a little bit, but I was pretty much always just 100 pounds. My child was over 8 pounds. And for reference, I'm 5 foot tall on the dot. So the baby kept growing and I was running out of room, to put it nicely. I also had this condition, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a condition where you have more amniotic fluid than you're like supposed to, or what's normal. So I was even bigger than I would have been, but it was more about like being able to push a baby out that was that big. They were like, if you want to have as natural of a childbirth as you can with still being induced, you know, that was what we did. So I ended up going to be induced. I had my bio mom come with me, and I got there and they informed me that I was already having contractions. Not just little contractions, but I was having consistent contractions. So they gave me the lowest dose of a tiny little pill. And from that, we progressed to the strips that they put up. And then that, we progressed to, we went back and forth for those for like 2 days. I was in labor, contracting, no painkillers for 2 days. I was like, this is fine. I don't want any painkillers. I know I'm, being induced, but I really want to have it as natural as possible. And so then we did the balloon, and nothing was making me dilate. That was the problem, is that I was having the contractions, but I was not dilated. And that was ultimately the problem that I had to have my emergency C-section. So at the end, I guess I'm like trying to hurry up because my sticks, I'm running out of sticks, but I can literally just restart the video, get more sticks into it. So I don't know why I'm feeling rushed. I should just like be able to enjoy the moment. Okay. So I had the balloon that wasn't working. So then we went up to Pitocin. We were on Pitocin. And that was not bad in the beginning. It felt like, for me, period cramps, which is insane. That Pitocin, it basically causes contractions. I'm not sure the science behind it, but it's like what they use when people are being induced, typically. But because I was already having regular contractions, they waited a lot longer to do that with me. And also, per my request, I really wanted to go as natural as possible. So I have this Pitocin, and I am determined to not need pain meds. And the doctor that I had said that it would, like, 40 is the highest you can go legally as far as a volume of how much you can put in a person, you know. It's 40. I don't know if it's 40, like what measurement that is or whatever, or level, I have no idea, but he said 40. And I was on Pitocin for a long time, steadily increasing. And by the end of it, I was at a 28, and they go up in 2 increments of 2. And I was on a drip for 28. It was at that point where I was like, we're gonna have to figure out something, because this is incredibly painful. I can handle pain. I've literally been tortured. I can handle pain. That was like getting me to a point after the exhaustion. This is days. This has been days at this point that we're having this stuff done. So I'm just like not sure how this whole thing is gonna go. Also, I do want to talk a bit about my my experience with my bio mom. You know, I think one of the reasons that I haven't talked about it is because it is hard. It's really hard talking about this stuff. And, you know, I know some people that may see my stuff, you know, may know my bio mom, and I think preservation of her, and just how overwhelming it is to talk about and to process. I haven't, but during my stay in the hospital, even up to that point, you know, I can't leave, obviously, but she would, it's tough. I'm trying to keep my train of thought with the storyline, and I'll try to get to everything. But when I was having these incredible contractions that were hurting very badly, I, you know, had researched, like, I had a doula, I had all this planned out. My doula wasn't allowed to come, and my Wi-Fi was terrible there, and to, like, video, it was so difficult. It was such a difficult moment. So, with all of that going on, she could not push on my back when I was having contractions because her feet hurt. And this is before any medicine. This is me just trying to get through it. And of course, a lot of this I didn't realize in the moment. Some of it I did, but some of it I was just in such fight or flight, just like trying to stay alive and keep this baby alive and get the baby out and all of that. Looking back, it's like, wow, that was rough. And there was one nurse. I'm like so grateful that I had a great experience. I've been very fortunate that I usually get really great care with doctors. I chalk it up to my luck. My best friend, she jokes about how I've lived through hell to the point where I've like backed up good luck, you know? So like my next 12 lifetimes, if that is a thing, I should be like the luckiest person. And I have really lucked out with a lot of different medical providers over the years, having all different chronic illnesses. Like, there's only a handful of times I could think of where something went wrong or they, like, invalidated me in some way. Like, everyone's really been a good listener for the most part. So there was this wonderful nurse, and she had just worked her 12-hour shift. I'm in active labor with no pain meds. So she was in there a lot, checking on me. She was helping me even when my bio mom couldn't. Like, she was just amazing. And she had her kids with no pain meds, and she did it for the same reasons I did. I'm getting so emotional. She did it for the same reasons I did, and I told her in the beginning when she was like, how do you want this to go for the next 12 hours? Like, how can I support you? It's like, I want to do it natural. And I said, because I feel like the pain that you experience during childbirth in some crazy way, it like rebirths you. It's like a new person as a mother, you know? I don't know, it made sense to me at the time, and I was very adamant about it. And I'd always felt this way. This wasn't new. But she was there for me, and she rocked me, and she helped me. And at the point that I finally said, okay, enough is enough, is when my doctor, surgeon, I don't even know what to call them, my doctor, he came in and he said, you know, we're looking at an epidural here at this point, because you're still not dilating, and sometimes an epidural is like the last thing that kind of kicks people into, sorry, this is one very big stick, and hopefully, I think I'm probably gonna have to pause the video and get it back going, but while this simmers a little bit, actually, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go get some sticks, because I think that this is going to be a really emotional part of my conversation, and I think I would like to be able to do it without interruption. So I'm going to go get some more sticks, and I will be right back. Okay, we have more sticks, so we have more light. So this wonderful, wonderful nurse, as I'm in the throes of it, and this doctor is telling me that I'm running out of options, because at that point, you know, I had been actively contracting regularly for days, and he said, you know, at this point, we're looking at an epidural or a C-section, and either way, we need to do the spinal. And I was just devastated. I was in so much pain. I was finding out that I wasn't going to be able to not have pain meds, basically. Like, it just was not an option for me at that point in the game. So she held my hand, and she looked at me as I'm crying. I mean, I'm falling apart. She looks at me and she said, "You've suffered enough. That I had experienced the pain that would change me." And that really, like, was such an important moment in my life. And I don't think she'll ever understand just how special that was to me. So she asked if I wanted to be, you know, her to be with me for it. And she offered, she said, "Can I be in there with you and hold your hand?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." So she was the one holding my hand. I didn't realize until she came, I'm just breaking. I didn't realize until she came in the room that she had just clocked out of work. She clocked out and waited for everything to get set up so that I could do the thingy, get the needle. Because she changed clothes. She said, "I'm off work, but I wanted to be here for you." So that was a bright spot in the whole process with her. I mean, I don't know her name, and I'm sure, like, that happens so much. Which is awesome. Like, she's an awesome person. But that was just, like, so meaningful in ways that okay. So, I get the epidural, and still nothing's happening. While I'm on the epidural, they bump it all the way up to 40. And that's not working. I was on it so long. So then they were like, well, sometimes if you come down off of Pitocin, if you've been on it for a long time, then that'll help. So we took a Pitocin break. And that is when I was told, so took an epidural break. They broke my water, because that still hadn't been broken. Broke my water. And so that, like, gives you time constraint, you know. So between that time and, you know, like, still trying, going back on Pitocin, like, it was just this really just shitty situation where everyone involved was just trying to help me, and everyone involved, like, all my care team was listening to me and throwing out all of these smaller options before having to resort to this. But I actually started to swell, and I was like dilating, and it was getting smaller because I was scarring myself, or swelling, because I had had a kid's head banging against it for days. So the fire is going down. I'm not putting things that are too big on it anymore, because once I'm done with this video, it's going to be time to go inside. So, I'm trying to get the fire back up before I start talking again. A little better. So there was no way that I was going to be able to have a vaginal birth. Also, by that point, brain. Okay, so, you know, it's pretty much like they broke my water and then we were in crunch time, you know, like you can't just like keep a baby in there with your water broken. So then me and my child started running a fever, and I was coming up on the end of the road, and the doctor, being very sweet and kind about it, but he looked at me and he said, your option is a C-section or you both might die. And he literally had to say that. I don't know if he was even allowed to say that or supposed to say that. It was like his last resort, like, you've just got to let us do it. Like, you're out of options. We've tried everything. You're just out of options. And I was like, okay, if we've both got a fever, they said they were in distress. So I was like, you know what, this is like, go ahead. Clearly they're not coming out through my vagina. It's not happening. So let's just go ahead. Like, so I pretty much was so, like, I was behind. by the time I agreed to it, I would say, under the knife within an hour. Like, they did it so quick. They were like, get this baby out. Because I don't know if it's because they were in so much distress and we were both getting so sick so fast. Because there was like no like fever, no like signs of distress until like within that last like 24 hours. The last 24 hours of my labor. So I had to hope that my birth mother would come back in time for my child to be born, because she left. She did that. So I was very worried that I was going to have my C-section by myself. Luckily, I didn't. She arrived in time for me to have it. So I had my C-section, and they held the baby up. Next time I will definitely ask to be able to see the whole thing if possible. I know that's weird, but I think it would be really cool. So I'm laying there, and they, hold up my baby through the little screen thing so I can see them, and I just remember crying and going, is that my baby? And I looked over to my bio mom, and I was like, is that my baby? She was like, yeah, that's your baby. And I couldn't hold him right away because, because it was an emergency C-section, like, they had to, like, all the people were there and, like, had to do all the tests and everything, and they were fine. So I remember all of that. I remember them wiping them off, my child wiping them off and putting them on my chest, and got them to latch. And I remember rolling down, like, getting them latching, like, crying. I'm so happy. Like, breastfeeding was another really big important thing to me to be able to do, just like from a connection standpoint. I don't know, it's just been something I've always been really excited about, was breastfeeding, along with a natural birth. So after that, I guess I'm sure I fell asleep. I was exhausted. And they wheel you to a different room. So I wake up to the sound of my child crying. And I was vomiting so aggressively that I couldn't get my words out when I was pushing the call button for the nurse. I couldn't see my kid. I couldn't see where I was. I was throwing up so violently. And there was not much coming out because I hadn't eaten in so long. But I was throwing up something. And let me tell you, throwing up after a C-section is not fun. It's not fun. Like, directly after, no. Not good. So I'm pushing the call button for the nurses to come, and one of them, and when I did the first time, they like can't understand me, and they're like, we'll send someone to come check on you. So I'm still throwing up, and time keeps going on, and no one is coming, and I can hear my baby crying, and I can't see, and I don't know where I'm at. And I called again, and they said, we're gonna bring someone. So someone casually walks in the door and just like starts calling other nurses in, because apparently they didn't get the note that they were supposed to come. It was just a nurse making rounds and saw the condition I was in and my child. So they started putting me on this like nausea medicine. I have gastroparesis. I didn't know it then. I wish I would have, but I didn't. So it did cause complications and other things like that. Finally got me to stop throwing up. The nurses had taken my child to the nursery area, I guess, just so like they could take care of my child for a minute so that they could like stabilize me or whatever. And I realized that my bio mom wasn't there. She had left me right after I had my child. Like, I had them and I fell asleep and I woke up alone, vomiting, crying out for help, no one there. Apparently, I found out after the fact that there was an emergency, and that's what all the nurses were doing. And, like, I'm not gonna say, like, nothing should have been more important, because, like, there may have been someone who lost their baby or almost lost their baby, and I was in that situation, so I was not upset about that, but I was upset that I was alone. I was upset that my biological mother did not stay to make sure that I was okay after the doctors being very clear that I might die. And that's why I had to have the C-section, and that I was getting an infection, and that I was getting sick. She left while I was asleep. This is what actually finally ended my want to have a relationship with her any longer. It took about a year of me processing it. Actually, not even a year. It took me a while of processing it before I was like, you know what? This actually isn't something that's okay with me. It went past frustrating, and it just... anyone I told, it blew their mind. And I was like, yeah, that's literally how things have just always been. I'm just so used to it. But that was so painful that it was irreparable. And after all of that happening, I was alone. And I think she came back and left again. And one of the surgeons came by to check on me. I don't even know how long. I had been there at least a day. I think it was 2 days. And I said, can I go home? Because, like, my spouse is at home and my other partner's at home. Like, they can help me at home. But here, I'm by myself. They couldn't be there. Like, they couldn't be there. The only person that could be there was my bio mom, because I wanted her there to be there for me, and she couldn't. So after that, I didn't leave the room. I didn't know where I was. I was scared. I was traumatized out of it, like, just not knowing what to do. Really could have used someone there to help me. And he said that you're not making the progress that we would have hoped. And I looked at him and I said, there's no one here helping me. You see me that I'm alone. You see that I'm alone. And the look on his face was so sad, because he's like, I know, I can see that you don't have help. And, like, you could tell he felt bad for me, that my bio mom kept leaving me. And that finally is what made him let me go home. So I had to call my bio mom to come to help me get ready to go home. Help me to get ready to go home. So after the fact, when I'm processing things, we talked. It was a very honest conversation. And I just said, I don't understand. I can't imagine. Now, I'm a mom, and I've been a mom for a little bit. It's like, I cannot imagine doing this to my kid. I cannot imagine my kid almost dying, and within 24 hours, I've left knowing that no one else can come be there for them. They're alone. Nothing. No one. And her response was that if she knew I was going to be in the hospital for 6 days, she would have told me to pick someone else to come with me, to be there for me while I had my child. That if she would have known, she would have told me to pick someone different, that she wouldn't be there for me. So her apology was only for not telling me that she couldn't do it at all. Not for the decisions she made, but for that. After it all, processing, I remembered that 2 different doctors at different times had asked if I had had surgery on my cervix because they thought that they could tell there was scar tissue and that was why I was not dilating. My abuse was so violent, aggressive, terrifying, that it scarred me to the point that I cannot have children vaginally. These are the burning embers. And I'm just gonna sit here for a while, I think. This might be the ending that we needed. It was a very difficult week, and I learned a lot about myself, but I also learned a lot about my bio mom, and I learned a lot about our relationship. So when people say that they're sorry that our relationship didn't work out or that we don't have a relationship anymore, I really don't feel sorry about that. I don't feel sorry. I feel relief. I feel free. And between her and other family members and friends and partners and things leaving my life, I can finally say that I have surrounded myself with people that do not lie to me. I do not have any close contact with anyone who lies to me. And that's new and refreshing, and it's gonna take time to get used to. It's been 2 years since that last person was gone, and it's gonna be a longer journey to learn to trust after everything I've been through. But one of the things that I really wanted to get on film was a moment for me to be vulnerable with myselves. That is the most important part of this entire thing for me. I've never made a video for myself of what happened. I've written it and hidden those things far away because they are so traumatic. I'm sure that there are alters that have split from that event that I have not met yet. I know that there's a lot left to discover and unpack the trauma within my body. But for right now, I'm in my own beautiful garden that I have curated myself. I have a fire in a wonderful fire pit that was gifted to me by people that I do love. I'm using a charcoal disc that started the whole fire that I've had for a very long time, and I bring them out on special occasions. I've burned herbs and beautiful things. All of these things I've done today. I'm in such a great environment My child is tucked in bed asleep, and their other 2 parents are inside with them as we speak. We've got a house. We've got 7 pets. Never worried about our next meal. Never worried about rent. Never worried about the things that we need that we can't afford having, that will our basic human needs. That's a really good place to be. And above all else, I'm loved. I'm truly loved. And that is an amazing feeling. My trafficking, the people involved, everything that I've been through has brought me where I'm at. I'm not one of those people that's grateful for what I've been through because it made me stronger. I'm not grateful. I'm not grateful that that happened to me. I'm not grateful that my body was used and discarded. I'm not grateful that I'm scarred for the rest of my life. That those men took something else from me that I didn't find out until it almost killed me. They really took something from me. They took my ability to have my child naturally away from me. So anyone that says that it's all in the past and to just get past it, first of all, I don't think anyone that's been trafficked speaks that way. I have never met anyone that was trafficked or heard of anyone that was trafficked and is grateful at any capacity or isn't touched by it constantly. For me, I don't wish it happened. And also, I know that because it happened, it opens the door for me to help other people know that they're not alone if that happened. They're not alone. And no one is. No one is. No matter what your trauma is, there's someone somewhere out there that knows how that feels. One of the really wild things that I think about sometimes is the other kids in the cages that I could see, in cages just like mine. I try not to see it because it's incredibly painful and triggering, but when I can take a step back and think about that, that means that I saw kids that went through my same experience. I know for a fact there are kids that live in this state in North Carolina that have been through what I have been through. Will I find them? Who knows? That would be a wild experience. But I know they're there and I know they exist. And sometimes that just has to be good enough for me. I'm really grateful that we've had this chance to talk and to film. It was very important for me to be able to speak about this and say this, have sort of a stream of consciousness moment. But I'm grateful. Thank you to anyone who is still listening. And yes, I am talking about people in the system. Also, if we end up posting this, that would be cool. But yeah, I think this is where I'm just going to end the video and enjoy the rest of my night as this fizzles down. And then crawling into my warm bed with my pig and my pit bull. Alright, bye.